Low-dose oral minoxidil. It's the treatment that's been quietly trending among dermatologists and some men in the hair loss community for the past few years. And now, thanks to some recent high-profile research, it's exploding back into the mainstream. But does it really work? And is it safe? And further, how does it compare to traditional topical minoxidil? Today, we'll go deep into the science, the results, the risks, and whether it's worth trying. By the end, you'll have a good idea if low-dose oral minoxidil is right for you and how to get started with the treatment. So let's jump in. So most people know minoxidil as the topical liquid or foam, the active ingredient in Rogaine and other generic topicals. But originally minoxidil was developed as an oral drug to treat high blood pressure. It's classed as a vasodilator, meaning it widens the blood vessels. This allows blood to flow more freely, effectively reducing its pressure against the vessel walls. When the FDA approved it for this indication in 1979, the dosages commonly prescribed ranged between 10 and 40 milligrams daily. Interestingly, one of the side effects of this new pill was hair growth, not just on the head, but all over the body, including the back, chest, limbs, and so on. At a time when there was effectively no treatment for hair loss, the implications of this were obvious. Repurpose the oral minoxidil into a topical formula that can be applied directly onto the scalp. This was how Rogaine came into the market, the first ever FDA-approved treatment for hair loss. Rogaine was a viable hair loss treatment for two reasons. Firstly, by applying it directly on the head, you avoided those unwanted hair growth side effects on the rest of the body. Secondly, the topical application avoided the severe side effects of the oral version, which included complications like water retention, rapid heart rate, and other severe heart complications. So the topical version became a standard treatment for hair loss, and for a long time, that's where things stood. But in the last few years, there's been a shift. A growing number of dermatologists are prescribing low-dose oral minoxidil and reporting very promising results. At the same time, highly motivated men with hair loss have been increasingly requesting this treatment from their doctors, largely due to the resurgence of interest on the topic in online hair loss communities. So fast forward to early 2025, when a very interesting report was published in JAMA Dermatology, a leading medical journal. The paper is what's called a consensus statement, which is basically when a group of top doctors get together to figure out the best way to use a treatment. In this case, low-dose oral minoxidil, or LDOM for short. Now, they didn't just sit around the table and chat casually. They used something called the Delphi process. And here's what that means in plain English. Instead of guessing or going off random opinions, 43 of the world's top hair loss specialists ran a kind of structured survey over multiple rounds. The survey asked them what they think works, what's safe, who should use it, what the right doses are, and so on. After each round, the so-called steering committees looked at the answers, made adjustments, sent out another round of questions to refine things. By the end, after 4 rounds of this, the experts had agreed on 76 key recommendations for how to use LDOM safely and effectively. So what exactly did they agree upon? First, efficacy. The panel agreed almost unanimously, 97.7%, that LDOM provides direct benefit for androgenetic alopecia as well as various other types of hair loss, which I won't go into. Second, dosing. The most common starting dose for adult men was 2.5 milligrams daily, with a typical range between 1.25 and 5 milligrams. The panel recommended customizing the dose based on factors like the severity of the hair loss, the age, and whether extra body hair, hypertrichosis, was a desirable or undesirable effect. There were several clear scenarios where the experts preferred oral minoxidil to the topical version. Firstly, when it makes sense financially on account of oral treatment costing less. Secondly, when the patient can't tolerate topical minoxidil due to irritation, allergy, or flaking. Thirdly, when applying the topical is messy, inconvenient, or affects hair styling. Then when topical minoxidil stops working or plateaus in effectiveness. In all these situations, oral minoxidil can be a viable and effective workaround. Now, even at low dose, oral minoxidil isn't risk-free. The most common side effect, as we mentioned, is unwanted hair growth on the face, arms, and back. This is obviously a very severe problem for women, but something that many guys won't be particularly happy about as well. There's also the possibility of other side effects like lightheadedness, dizziness, and fast or abnormal heartbeat. These will often appear 4 to 7 days after the start of the treatment. And while rare, the more serious cardiac complications that are well known from the classical high-dosage schedules are also possible. For this reason, the panel agreed that LDOM should not be used in patients with various kinds of heart problems, including pericarditis and congestive heart failure. That said, most patients tolerate low-dose oral minoxidil well, especially at the lower end of the dosing range. The main takeaway is that low-dose oral minoxidil is gradually emerging as a mainstream treatment option after finasteride and topical minoxidil. If you're a guy in your late teens or 20s and you're losing your hair, chances are you've tried either finasteride or topical minoxidil or a combination of the two. But low-dose oral minoxidil is now being taken seriously as a third major option, not just as a last resort, but as a legitimate first-line or add-on treatment depending on your situation. Here's how it breaks down in practical terms. If you've tried topical minoxidil and found it too greasy, irritating, or just a hassle to apply every day, low-dose oral minoxidil might be a better fit. If your scalp isn't converting topical minoxidil into its active form, which happens in a fair number of guys due to low sulfotransferase enzyme levels, the oral version bypasses this problem entirely. If you're seeing some results but want to simplify your routine, switching from 2-day applications of foam or liquid to a once-daily pill can make life a lot easier and simpler. For motivated guys who can live with the increased risk of side effects, the obvious next step is to stack it with oral finasteride. Judging by some of the user photos coming out of Reddit, this stack on its own, without any other interventions like microneedling or something like that, can be enough to induce significant regrowth in a lot of guys. But of course, don't expect miracles overnight. According to the international expert consensus, the earliest that you can realistically expect to see results is around the 3-month mark. That's if you don't experience the typical shedding phase that often kicks in early on. If you do go through the initial shed, the real improvements might not show up until closer to 6 months. And of course, if you're serious about reversing hair loss, you also need to treat the underlying scalp environment. That's where the Grow Band comes in. It's our best-selling device for a reason, because it targets chronic scalp tension, which researchers now believe plays a central role in androgenetic alopecia. Tension in the scalp compresses the dermal layer, leading to an ever-decreasing blood supply to the root of the hair follicle. And unlike oral minoxidil, the Grow Band actually gets to the root cause. If you quit minoxidil, you'll lose all the results you got, but the results from the Grow Band can be cumulative because you're actually remodeling the scalp tissues. If you're on oral minoxidil or thinking of trying it, or have questions about stacking it with finasteride, we'd love to hear from you in the comment section down below. So guys, like and subscribe, check out the channel, see if there are any other videos that interest you, and I'll see you in the next video.